How's the government shutdown affecting you? It's not, is it? In fact, the vast majority of people in this nation, it's not affecting at all. But there are three groups that it is affecting, and those are the three that we should pay attention to. The first group is that group of Americans that are working full-time but still need a little help. Just can't seem to get their foot up for success and just need a little help up. Our federal law enforcement officers and our military. Now, the reason I bring these three groups up is because these three groups are not getting paid right now. They're not getting the assistance that they need. They're not getting their paychecks, but they're still showing up to work. They're not complaining. They're just doing what Americans do. As for the others, you know who you are. Fuck off. We couldn't give two fucks about the situation you're in. If you're able-bodied and you refuse to work, fuck you. If you've got 12 kids by 16 different men, or however that math works out, fuck you. We're tired of this bullshit. Get a fucking job.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views. CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Last week in our We Told You So series,
we warned GM investors that CEO Mary Barra was bad for business.
We were right.
Barra's love affair with EVs just cost stockholders $1.6 billion as GM takes a massive loss after Biden subsidies come to an end. Then, Paul Chesser reported Bank of America had no problem debanking conservatives.
This is an issue that NLPC's been investigating since the story broke,
but refused to expose Jeffrey Epstein's financial activities.
During the January 6th uprising, Bank of America scrubbed through its data and turned over credit card information without being asked, without being subpoenaed, without having a warrant given to them by federal law enforcement. At the same time, they were doing business with Jeffrey Epstein without question. And then after Epstein died, they suddenly realized, we need to report this activity. And they filed 2 suspicious activity reports, as they should have done when Epstein was still alive and still banking, but they didn't do so. They were basically covering up the business that Epstein was conducting.
But wait, there's more.
NLPC Chairman Peter Flaherty is calling for the indictment of John Brennan, the ex-CIA director who pushed the Russia collusion hoax, relied on the discredited Steele dossier, and lied to Congress.
According to the House Judiciary Committee, John Brennan committed crime. We believe there's even more to the story, and we're going to stay on top of it.
That was last week. What's NLPC working on next? Find out by subscribing to the NLPC on this platform,
or by visiting us at nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it, please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching CramerSez.
Welcome. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez Project, and woo, has it been a week. We're waiting for the entire world to end tomorrow as the EBT cards go down and so on. Tonight we'll be talking about what caused this current affair, this Schumer shutdown, what really caused it. Not the bullshit that they're telling you about, but the real reason we're here right now, and you won't believe this. I know it's going to come as a shock. But back in 2022, Republicans were warning Democrats that this was going to happen as they tried to ram this down our throats. And then they did. They brought Kamala Harris in to sign the bill to get this done. We'll explain that. We'll also be talking to our special guest, Peter Flaherty. He's the chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center. We'll be talking about what's going on with Jay Jones there in Virginia. Peter's a resident of Virginia, so he has special interest in what's going on with that AG race out there. Also, Zoran Mamdani, what's going on in New York? What does socialism mean to the city of New York and to the people of the rest of the country if this city goes through with hiring, well, I guess they are hiring him, right? That's what it is. It's a job interview. They want him to run the place, so I guess they are hiring him. Yeah, they're going to vote him into office, a socialist in New York. We'll see how that goes. And then we're going to talk about wrapping everything up talking about what is expected to happen tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, etc., as the government shutdown continues and the EBT cards and the government subsidies and any help from the government stops. What is it going to be like? We'll discuss that here at the end. Let's talk about why the Schumer shutdown happened. It didn't happen just because, Republicans wanted it or Democrats wanted it. No, it happened because Democrats were lazy back in 2022. They wanted to do a lot of spending, and they had to get it qualified and justified. And to do that, they kind of played with the facts and figures, and now we're paying the price for that. I wrote this piece. It hasn't been published yet, but I'm going to go ahead and read it here. We'll go off about it, but it will tell you what's going to happen next because of what they did in 2022. As the federal government enters its second month of shutdown, a bitter partisan clash over expiring Affordable Care Act ACA subsidies has taken center stage, threatening to unleash premium hikes of 50% to over 100% for millions of Americans starting next year. What makes all this drama that we're going through right now, what makes this so interesting, folks, is that, first of all, we didn't have to be here, but Democrats themselves delivered this to us. They did this. They're trying to push it off on the Republicans. They're trying to blame shift. It's those guys. They won't negotiate. They won't do this. Democrats designed these subsidies to sunset December 31st, 2025. Democrats own this. Republicans have nothing to do with it. Republicans washed their hands of this in 2022. Guess what happened in 2022? Guess how many Republicans voted for this bill? I'll give you a guess. Take a guess. Just spit it out. Say it. Whatever number. Yeah, it was zero. Not a single one. This was not a bipartisan bill. Kamala Harris had to come in and break the tie. Democrats did this. The reason that these benefits are not permanent is because Democrats made them temporary to get through another cycle, to get one. Hey, look at what we did for you guys. And now they're blaming it on the Republicans. Why didn't they have the balls back in 2022 to make it permanent? Simple. We couldn't afford it. We can't afford it. We cannot afford health care for all. We can't afford these programs, folks. You can't keep giving Johnny's money to Ricky and expecting things to get better. Eventually, Johnny gets pissed off. And when Ricky stops getting his money, guess what he does? He does what the EBT queens are promising, threatening to do tomorrow. They're going to rise up. And then we got the idiots on November 5th headed to D.C. They're already talking about insurrection. They're going to surround our symbols of power. The White House, Congress, Supreme Court, and they're going to hold them hostage until Trump relents and steps down from power. The Republicans kind of predicted this back in 2022. They said we would get here. Now, they didn't go this far, but they said it's going to get bad, and we'll. What happened there? The studio disappeared. Wow, we got to work on that. So the reason that we're here is because Democrats opted for a temporary extension to keep costs down for political passage. What that means is that they didn't have the balls to tell you how much it was going to cost you down the road. That is going to amaze you. What predicted back then has come true. It was only 3 years ago, folks. Going on from the article, the enhanced premium tax credits first boosted in the 2021 American Rescue Plan to combat COVID-era health care disruptions were slated to lapse at the end of 2023. Democrats extended them through December 31st, 2025 via the IRA. That's the Inflation Reduction Act. A sweeping climate, tax, and health bill rammed through via budget reconciliation. Now, there's an interesting reason that they did this. You see, they didn't want to negotiate with the GOP in the Senate. They didn't want the filibuster getting in their way. So they played silly games within the system to ram this through. The reason we're here today is because Democrats wanted us here. Remember, I've been telling you that systems are designed to deliver a specific product. I mean, if you buy a toaster, for example, and you plug it in, do you expect it to mow the lawn? No, it's a toaster. It does one thing. It toasts bread. That's what it does. That's its purpose. Its desired outcome is for toasted bread. The system that is in place has created where we are right now. They did this. So if we're at this point in history, it's because they wanted us here. It's not by mistake. They set a time. They said at this point in the future, these subsidies disappear. There was a reason for that. They didn't have the courage to tell you, we don't have enough money, but we're going to go through one more cycle. We're going to have you vote for us on one more fake promise that we know what the fuck we're doing. They don't. And when they do, it's dangerous. The extension came with an explicit sunset clause, a move critics at the time, this is what we're going to talk about tonight, decried as a budget gimmick to understate the legislation's true fiscal impact. That's that's a learned man's way of saying we couldn't fucking afford it. That's what they're saying right there. We don't have the money. We're broke. We've gone in and we slid all the credit cards through all the little we've pushed them up to everything. We're broke, folks. We're fucking broke. Now, with open enrollment previews flashing sticker shock increases, this is the healthcare system saying, hey, these subsidies are rolling off, and this is what it's going to cost you when you re-up. Such as a family of four's monthly premium jumping from $138 currently to $1,232 in Georgia. Cha-ching. Shouldn't this have been worked out? The people who keep telling you they want to be in full control of everything, this is where they got us. The Democrats got us here. They own this. The Republicans said no back then. They're saying no now. We're not negotiating this, Chuck. We can't afford it. At some point, America has to be shown that the Obamacare, ACA, Affordable Care Act was not affordable. You cannot rob from Peter to pay Paul. Actually, Peter gets pissed off. That's where we're at right now. Don't you get it? This was all predicted. The stakes couldn't be higher. The Kaiser Family Foundation, KFF, estimates that without extension, 4 million people could lose coverage entirely. I'll be one of them. If the rates go up the way that they are right now, I am not going to pay higher rates. I don't care. I'm done. They can suck my dick to get money out. I'm done. I've paid in my entire life. Now you're telling me I'm $3,000 to $5,000 a month, somewhere in that ballpark, for coverage that won't cover me? That I go in and I say I need this procedure, and they turn around and they say, well, we don't think you do. You're going to have to fight for that. No. Not at $60,000, $70,000 a year for insurance. You fucking cover me or I go away. I take my money and I just put it underneath my pillow. That's where we're getting. You're about to see the collapse of a number of our institutions, folks, because the government has gotten in bed with everything. We cannot afford it. We cannot keep printing money on a regular basis. We can't afford it. Average benchmark premiums should double nationwide. This is what everybody's saying. It's come to fruition. In states like West Virginia, unsubsidized plans are already previewing 75% spikes per state regulators. Democrats holding a slim House majority, but facing GOP obstruction. That's how this is being sold to America. It's GOP obstruction. The GOP did not want to be here in 2022. They told Democrats no, 100%. House and Senate. So when Chuck or anybody else comes to you on TV and says, the Republicans bear respect, they do not. If your child is starving right now, if you don't have food in your pantry right now, if you can't afford to feed your children tomorrow, this lies at the feet of Democrats back in 2022. We're tired of the blame shifting. We refuse to take blame for shit we didn't do. But facing GOP obstruction have tied the subsidies to stopgap funding bills, framing Republicans as call-outs or callous toward working families. That's what they're saying right now, is that the Republicans are the obstructionists, they're the callous ones. How callous is it to give someone a monthly subsidy that they come to depend upon to ensure their family's health, and then rip it out from underneath them as a political tool? Because that's what the Democrats are doing right now. They designed it to be this way. This is the system. I keep telling you. What they did in 2022 set a system in place that at a certain point in time down the road, that system was going to produce this emergency. What did Rahm Emanuel say so famously? You never waste an emergency, ever. No, you don't do that. Letting these credits expire would be a death sentence for affordable health care, end quote, Senate Leader Majority Chuck Schumer thundered on the floor this week. Republicans countered that the temporary fix was always a Floyd Democratic ploy, one they warned would boomerang into exactly this chaos, and they did. We've got a story we'll talk about here in a moment. With full control of Congress and the White House in 2022, Democrats could have made the subsidies permanent, but chose not to. My dad was famous for saying if they wanted to, they would. It's a great lesson. If somebody really wanted to do something, they would. You want to build that bridge across that river? You got enough desire, you'll do it. If you want to, you will. That's life. If you really want it, you'll make it happen. They didn't want to do it. It's the same thing with Roe v. Wade. Remember? They could have gone in and codified that. They could have made that law, and it couldn't have been touched anymore. They didn't. Why? You know why. They didn't have the courage to do it. And if it gets taken away from them as a tool to bitch and moan about, which is probably the most important point, they have to have something to be pissed off about. See, they can still raise money on this issue. If they gave you what you wanted, they couldn't raise money on it anymore. They've been successful. Fundraising, for example, in the state of Indiana for pro-life causes is down since the laws have been passed the way that they are. It's a fact of life. Democrats don't want their money to go down. They'd have to embezzle more through Act Blue, allegedly. We'll talk about that next week. They chose not to make these subsidies permanent, primarily to cap the IRA's 10-year cost at around $100 billion for the extension, avoiding steeper offsets that might have sunk the bill under reconciliation rules. You see, everything that they did was to be able to get through what they wanted to get through, regardless the cost, regardless what it was going to be down the road. They didn't care what happened to you down the road as long as they could get this through today. Aren't you tired of this shit? A full decade-long performance was projected to add $400 billion, $500 billion per Congressional Budget Office CBO scoring at the time. They didn't want to tell you that, folks. They did not want to tell you that it was going to cost $500 billion to do this a year. They didn't have the courage. They did the old bait and switch. Created an emergency that's going on right now today. They knew that we would be here. This is the system they designed. We're here because they wanted us here. Republicans, I'm going to say it one more time, voted unanimously, no, we don't want to be here. They warned that if we go here, this is what will happen. This is how it will affect America. And what did Democrats do? They turned the blind eye and called the Republicans at the time haters of America. How dare you not give them what they deserve? How dare you not give Americans what they should have? We're the Democrats. That's what we do. We'll give them everything they want, even if they can't afford it. And it bankrupts their children, grandchildren, and the future of this country. Fuck, we'll give them everything. GOP lawmakers have seized on the irony, pointing to their unanimous opposition in 2022 and early prophecies of doom. Quote, Democrats set the trap and now the Republicans quote, Democrats set the trap and now want Republicans to pay the ransom, end quote, House Budget Committee Chair Jason Smith, Republican from Missouri, said Thursday, echoing a caucus-wide refrain that the subsidies distorted markets, fueled fraud, and merely delayed inevitable reforms. That's fancy words for kicking the can down the road. They don't like to speak in common terms, layman terms. They use fancy wordology to confuse you and mess with you. Fugazi, right? But if they spoke in common terms and actually said what they were doing to you, you'd probably catch on a lot faster. That's why they speak in the words that they do. The warnings date back to the IRA's heated floor debates. That happened on the Senate floor on August 6, 2022, as the Senate voted 51-50 to pass the bill. Kamala Harris was the breaking tie vote. They were so proud. She smiled, leaned forward. We did it. We did it. We fucked the American people. Why would Democrats do what they did? Because they didn't know who would be in control at this point in time. If they were in control, they'd spin it. They'd wiggle through. If they're in control, no problem. If they're not in control, they've created an emergency and then blame it on the Republicans. We've seen this before, folks. This is not new. They continue to do the same thing. I shouldn't have to explain this basically, but that's what it is. They do it over and over and over again. It's a mean girl trick. You got to catch up on this shit. The warnings date back to the IRA's heated floor debates on August 6, 2022, as the Senate voted 51-50 to pass the bill, with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking the tie. Republicans like Mike Crapo, a Republican from Idaho, blasted the temporary credits as illusory relief. And this is what's interesting, folks. We told you so.
We just asked the Joint Tax Committee to tell us who bears these burdens. Who will bear the burden of these tax hikes? They told us, as the chart here shows, in 2023, the taxes will be increased by $16.7 billion on American taxpayers earning less than $200,000. In 2023, another $14.1 billion will come from taxpayers earning between $200,000 and $500,000. And by 2031, when the new green energy credits and subsidies provide an even greater benefit to those in America with higher incomes, those earning below $400,000 are projected to bear as much as 2/3 of the burden of the additional tax revenues collected in that year. That's what we're being offered as a solution to the crisis that we are now in our economy. And, as I'll discuss later, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has recently confirmed that a significant portion of the revenue that the IRS supersized funding they're claiming will be coming from audits that they are going to be taking will come out of taxpayers earning less than $400,000. So in response to this data that we've been able to show about their very tax proposals in this bill, the Democrats surprisingly have claimed that this Joint Tax Committee analysis isn't valid because it didn't include the effects of their spending that they were putting into the bill. Now, that's a novel idea. It's okay to raise taxes, and it's okay to put more tax burden on people making more than $400,000 because we're going to be sending some subsidies to some of them. So we asked the Joint Tax Commission to include those subsidies in its analysis, which they did. The analysis they gave us back incorporated the Obamacare subsidies and shows that the burdens of the proposed tax increases in the Democrats' reckless bill will be so substantial and so widespread throughout all income categories. I repeat, all income categories, that no amount of temporary health care credits or even the subsidies that this bill gives for $80,000 luxury SUVs will overcome the tax increase burdens that will be overwhelmingly felt by lower and middle income class Americans. Few, if any, Americans will get a net reduction in the burden that they will bear from the taxes and subsidies provided in this bill. And for any that do, it will only be temporary.
We were saying it back then. We were telling you then. We were telling you then that it was going to get here. That even if you did get this relief, it wasn't going to last forever, and it was going to come at you like a boomerang. Now, Senator James Lankford, a Republican out of Oklahoma, he went even further that day, predicting that the subsidies would warp employer-sponsored insurance and saddle future budgets. This is what he had to say.
It creates a subsidy in health insurance to be announced right before the fall elections this fall. And it's not for those that are in poverty. Those that are in poverty, all the way up to 400% of poverty, already get health care subsidies. Oh no. This is not for those folks at the poverty level, 200%, 300%, or 400% of poverty. This is a family of four making $200,000 that will get this health care subsidy. What do the economists think will happen with this new subsidy? They believe employers will drop their health insurance and will push employees onto the government Affordable Care Act policies and will shift more and more people onto the government rolls. Remember, this is the Inflation Reduction Act.
We were saying it back then. We were warning back then that we would get here, that it would happen, that what they were painting for you, what they were telling you it was unsustainable. It's still unsustainable. Folks, the government being in every part of our lives is unsustainable. It cannot be afforded. You cannot pay enough people. You cannot rob people to pay enough people to watch all the people so that people don't come after you. Eventually, the whole system collapses. This is where we are in this nation. It doesn't get any better without your involvement. I keep saying that you have to wake up. Individual freedoms can only be protected by the individual. There is nobody on this planet that should be more willing to defend your rights than you. Why do you keep saying that nothing's ever going to happen? Do you expect somebody else to stand up and defend your rights? That's not their job. That's your job. Don't say that your rights have been taken or stolen unless you've stood up to defend them. It's hard hearing the truth, isn't it? Most people just want to complain. They never take action. I've got a buddy. He loved him to death. Nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing's ever going to happen. And I go, well, what are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? What little thing are you doing on a daily basis to get them held accountable? What are you doing? Anything? What are you doing? You have to be a part of the solution. We talk about our founding fathers. They stopped talking. They started taking action. Now, I'm not saying that we have to go do something like our founding fathers did. Those are final steps. What I'm saying, though, is that in this country, we have the right and the authority to tell our government we're done. I was standing the other day with a politician here in the state of Indiana, and we started to talk about the relationship of the politicians to the constituents. Now, I've been lucky. In my entire life, I have been a floater, right? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm a floater. And that I just seem to kind of come in through these places and just float among all these people and meet all people and just float on to another group, to another group, to another group. And what I've learned over that is that how these people work, what they think of themselves. Most people, it doesn't matter how much money they have, the majority of them are all common, down to earth. There are some assholes, but I know poor assholes too. I know gay assholes, I know black assholes, I know white assholes, I know Asian assholes, I know Hispanic assholes. And I know a lot of nice people as well. They're all the same. But one thing about politicians that they've forgotten is that they are servants. They're public servants. It's in their fucking name. And that's what I told her. I said, well, you're a public servant. that is a step below a citizen and a step above a slave. You are a servant. You work for us. You don't tell us what to do. You make suggestions, and we determine whether we're going to do that. But for the people to be free, they have to understand that as well. It can't just be me telling one politician. It has to be everybody telling every politician. You work for me. You are a public servant. You're a step above a slave. You're my employee. You see, what they've done is they've made laws and so on that demand that you play into a system that they control. You have to pay these taxes and we'll put you in jail. What are the taxes for? Well, you know, for the roads and everything and how I get paid. At the end of the day, everybody who writes laws to control your lives, at the end of the day, they're getting paid somehow, somewhere. Whether it be the lobbyist on K Street actually writing the laws, or be the politicians pushing them through, telling us, well, we have to push it through to find out what's in it. Or the politicians like Jim Baird in Indiana, he's a Republican who told us, yeah, I'm not going to vote for that bill. Then he voted for it. And when his vote got recorded, we go, hey, what happened? He goes, oh, it was a mistake. This is where we are in America, folks. And for this to be corrected, you have to become a part of it. That's what the left understands. That's why they head to the streets. That's why they're active. You keep expecting somebody else to stand up and do the work. They're not doing the work. We're here because Republicans and Democrats have worked hand in hand over the last 60 years to fuck us out of everything that is ours. And then they turn around and tell us that we're the problem. The only way this stops, and I'm not talking through violence, revolution. You can have a revolution that is a revolution of thought. We're not doing this anymore. I saw a comment that if you stop paying your taxes, you'll go to jail. Really? Enough people stop paying their taxes. Who's going to come round us up? You got to think like I do. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress
Across the nation.
and around the globe.
You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Call it the wedding of the woke. Billionaire heir Alex Soros just tied the knot with Hillary Clinton's longtime enforcer, Huma Abedin, in an ultra-exclusive ceremony that was about as subtle as a BLM riot with bottle service.
It was quite an event. It took place on Shelter Island, which is off Long Island. You can't get there unless you're very rich. The event was attended by two former presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, and of course, Hillary was there.
Translation: if you don't own a private jet, you're not on the guest list.
This event took place behind a phalanx of security, ironically, on Saturday, the same day when the Soros Foundations were bankrolling the so-called No Kings demonstrations around the country.
You heard that right. While the elite were toasting with Veuve Clicquot, Soros-backed protests were lighting up the streets because nothing says no kings like a family that buys district attorneys and throws $14 million weddings guarded like a royal fortress.
Is violence in the streets? Well, it's not spontaneous, and the American people deserve to know who's behind it.
While the media gushes over the dress, the venue, and the guest list, NLPC is tracking the dollars, right from the Soros empire to the streets.
We are identifying the money flows between the Soros Foundation and the activists who are conducting these protests.
You may not know our name, but since 1991, the National Legal and Policy Center has investigated and exposed more crime and corruption than any other political watchdog group in the country. Period.
And with your help, we're going to get at the truth.
Like, follow, and share to be notified about any updates on this story and more. Or get in-depth reporting from the National Legal and Policy Center at nlpc.org.
more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it, please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching Kramer Says.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez Project. If you haven't been over there yet, go do it. Go over to the CramerSezProject.com, take a look around, and see if you can help us out. We're trying to make things better. We're trying to make things a lot better, and we need your help to do it. I can't do it by myself. I can't be working 24/7 all the time. Every once in a while, I need to take a break. Our guest today is Peter Flaherty. Peter Flaherty is the chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center, the NLPC. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Good to see you, Tim.
Good to see you. Good to have you here. You guys at the NLPC have a reputation of going after the corrupt, the ethically challenged, and grifters, which brings us to Black Lives Matter. They're back in the news. What's going on with that story?
Well, there was a story in the media that the Justice Department is investigating, quote unquote, Black Lives Matter. Allegedly, they've issued some subpoenas and asked for some records. We'll see where this leads. We've brought to the attention of the IRS and also the Justice Department all kinds of things regarding Black Lives Matter, some of which was original research, some of which was just in the newspapers. But until this time, there's been absolutely no action. So we're hopeful that there'll be a real investigation and prosecutions if necessary, but we will believe it when we see it.
Well, one of the issues that happened a couple of years ago is that Black Lives Matter was exposed, I believe it was by the Daily Caller, is that it? For sending money to one of the women's, well, Patrisse Cullors' baby daddy. Is that the kind of thing we can expect that this was all about in the first place?
Well, we believe that there was real corruption there. I mean, whether you like BLM or not ideologically, it's a nonprofit. It has 501c3 status granted by the Internal Revenue Service, meaning that people can donate money and get a tax deduction. It's a privileged status. It's not something you get automatically. And there's just been internal corruption. I'll give you some examples. The main BLM organization is actually known as Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. Now, there are some spin-offs and some competing groups, but that's the main one. That's the one that got the $90 million in the wake of the 2020 George Floyd riots. But in any case, they bought a mansion in Los Angeles for $6 million. It's a little unclear what it was used for, maybe have some meetings. They bought another mansion in Toronto, Canada, and that one was a little weirder. It became sort of a center for performance art by transgender people and a general center of political activity for transgender people. What's not well known about Black Lives Matter is that it actually should be renamed Transgender Lives Matter, because the founders and the people who initiated this thing, somewhat shrewdly, I guess, jumped aboard the race issue to promote their own ideological vision, and that's that there's no difference between men and women.
Wow. So science doesn't matter with these people?
No, but the real problem why they've lost so much public support has been all these articles about the internal corruption. The founder of Black Lives Matter is a woman named Patrisse Cullors. She's married to somebody who's non-binary. I'm not sure how that works when they turn off the lights, but I'll leave it to them. But in any case, Patrisse bought 4 pieces of real estate. She's a self-avowed Marxist. There was a spate of news stories about this. We were the source of it. It was based on our original research. And so they get all these bad headlines. Then that led to more people kind of scrutinizing their filings, the Daily Caller, the New York Post. And lo and behold, Patrisse Cullors' brother was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for security. He has no background in the security business.
All right.
So it was kind of all in the family. And they've also been the target of criticism by other black activists. It's even led to the creation of some competing groups that use the name Black Lives Matter, but they've been highly critical of BLM. They claim that $90 million went in, and it's unclear what's happened to it. They know that they have not gotten it.
Right.
Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation did do a round of grants to local organizations, but that was only after they received a lot of criticism. And, what they distributed totaled something like, 1% of the money they had.
Well, this story that we're talking about with Black Lives Matter is just one of the stories that the NLPC has been working on over the last several years. Let's get into that. Let's talk about what the NLPC does, what you guys attack, why you go after it, and what that process looks like.
Well, we do original research, and there are other groups doing good research too, but what makes us different, I guess, is that we take the next step and try to use the research. For instance, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, we filed a complaint, very detailed complaint with the Internal Revenue Service. We've amended it a couple times, both with our own research and also information gathered by others. And we've filed with state charitable regulators. BLM, surprise, surprise, hasn't filed the proper forms. So we filed complaints with them. Now, a great frustration of ours is that in the case of Black Lives Matter, nothing has happened. The tax-exempt division of the IRS is notoriously ineffective. The last time they had an effective director, her name was Lois Lerner, and she was effective for all the wrong reasons. She was going after conservative groups and Tea Party groups, and delaying their applications for tax-exempt status while, rubber stamping those of her friends on the left. Now, we're not suggesting that we do a right-wing version of that. What we'd like to see is even-handed, fair, objective, a person in charge of the exempt division who will enforce the law. In what universe are there headlines after headlines about corruption within a nonprofit group, and then the IRS does nothing? In the old days, if an investigative reporter broke some scandal involving, the United Way or whoever, or somebody embezzling money from a nonprofit, the IRS was all over it.
Yeah.
But BLM seems to have, at least until now, a certain level of deference, and we'd like to finally see a real investigation and prosecutions for this corruption.
That is, that's promising. I hope that that's the case, but like you, Peter, I don't have much faith in the system that these people are going to find justice. You mentioned earlier about where we are politically in this whole system, and I think that it's interesting because it brings up two names, Jay Jones and Zohran Mamdani. I'd like to talk to you about them next.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Last week in our We Told You So series,
We warned GM investors that CEO Mary Barra was bad for business.
we were right.
Barra's love affair with EVs just cost stockholders $1.6 billion as GM takes a massive loss after Biden subsidies come to an end. Then, Paul Chesser reported Bank of America had no problem debanking conservatives.
This is an issue that NLPC's been investigating since the story broke.
But refused to expose Jeffrey Epstein's financial activities.
During the January 6th uprising, Bank of America scrubbed through its data and turned over credit card information without being asked, without being subpoenaed, without having a warrant given to them by federal law enforcement. At the same time, they were doing business with Jeffrey Epstein without question. And then after Epstein died, they suddenly realized, we need to report this activity. And they filed 2 suspicious activity reports, as they should have done when Epstein was still alive and still banking, but they didn't do so. They were basically covering up the business that Epstein was conducting.
But wait, there's more.
NLPC Chairman Peter Flaherty is calling for the indictment of John Brennan, the ex-CIA director who pushed the Russia collusion hoax, relied on the discredited Steele dossier, and lied to Congress.
According to the House Judiciary Committee, John Brennan committed crimes. We believe there's even more to the story, and we're going to stay on top of it.
That was last week. What's NLPC working on next? Find out by subscribing to the NLPC on this platform.
Or by visiting us at nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it, please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching Kramer Says.
Welcome back to the show. We've got some interesting things going on in this country, and one of them is what's going on in Virginia. My special guest today is Peter Flaherty. He's a resident of Virginia, and what's interesting is that Jay Jones is going to be your AG, is what it looks like, but he wants Republicans dead. Peter, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Jay Jones is sort of an up-and-coming figure in Virginia politics. He's currently a candidate for Attorney General, running against the incumbent Republican Jason Miyares. Jay Jones got himself into trouble a few weeks ago when some text came to light where he said he wanted to put 2 bullets to the head of the Republican Speaker of the Virginia House. He also wanted to kill police officers. He also wanted to kill the Speaker's children and see them die in their mother's arms. It was really strange stuff, the kind of thing that would end the campaign of any other candidate in the country, I suppose. But he soldiers on. And what's remarkable is that the other Democrats in the state running statewide, Abigail Spanberger is the gubernatorial candidate heading the ticket. They've all refused to ask Jay Jones to get off the ticket. So it's really a new low in American politics. It seems like violence has been mainstream. And even somebody like Abigail Spanberger, who's a sitting member of Congress and a candidate to be governor, who's ahead in the polls, by the way, will not even demand that Jay Jones get out of the race.
Yeah, I think it's shocking that being asked directly to condemn his words, and they're so Democrats refuse to do it, and it's not just Jay Jones.
Especially, over the years, these litmus tests that have been applied to Republicans. You have to condemn this. You've said nothing about that. The slightest hint of any extremism is headlines in the mainstream media. And here we have this case of this guy making these horrible, violent, strange comments, and the entire Democratic establishment, not only his running mates on the ticket, but the entire Democratic establishment, including the 2 U.S. senators, Tim Kaine and Warner, have stood by him. Yep. So it's really remarkable, and it's very ominous. I think it's very, it may be good for Republicans in the short term because Miyares will defeat Jay Jones for the Attorney General's post, but it's very bad for our country.
Well, I agree, and we've got the same thing happening with this Graham Plattner character that's running for, I believe it's up in Maine. It was revealed that he had a Nazi tattoo on his chest, and the answer was for them to just cover it up. I mean, isn't that the policy?
When a Republican does it, it betrays all kinds of evil intent. But when a Democrat does it, we can just something over it maybe, and it's okay. It's just an incredible double standard.
I agree with you 100%. Then we move on to New York, and I don't think that New York understands what it's about to get itself into. Voting in a socialist? Give me your thoughts. Where are we headed in this country if this continues?
I spent last weekend in New York City. I took the subway. I did all the New York stuff. I went to Times Square. Love it or hate it, it's a remarkable place. But if Mamdani gets in there, I think there'll be a severe, steep decline in the quality of living within the city, and it's a darn shame. One thing that we believe is underreported is the role of Soros his network and his money in kind of creating Mamdani and providing the financial resources for his campaign. In the Democratic primary, Soros, one way or another, routed more than $10 million to Mamdani. Some of it went through some quasi-legal or some sort of shady devices, which will be maybe investigated and resolved long after the election. Mamdani is kind of a creation of several institutions, most prominently the Working Families Party, which is bankrolled primarily by George Soros. Soros is so extreme and so intent on changing the character of this country that the New York Democrats, among the most liberal Democrats in the country, aren't left-wing enough for him. So he funds this entire infrastructure to the left of the Democratic Party. The left-wing activists in New York have their own party. It's called the Working Families Party. In how many states does the far left have a political party? I mean, they have activist groups. They may control media outlets, but they don't have their own political party.
Right.
It just goes to show you how well-funded they are and how ubiquitous the Soros money is all over the country.
Well, it's interesting, the Soros reporting that you've been doing here recently at the NLPC. Carl Horowitz, I believe, is the author that's been doing a lot of this, digging into where the money's coming from, where it's going, and who's responsible. Kind of touch on that as well as we close up here.
Well, Mamdani, as I said, is a creation of the Soros apparatus and funding network. And you never would have heard his name if it's not for George Soros. And they have several institutions. They have some political action committees. They have their main giving body, which is called the Open Society Foundation, which provides money to activist groups and nonprofit groups. But the word I used was ubiquitous, and it's really true. We work on a number of issues, quite apart from what's happening in New York, and the groups on the other side, we have found, are always funded by Soros. We do shareholder activism, for instance. We kind of challenge big companies about some of their policies. It's an idea we got from the left. Well, the main groups on the left that do this are funded by Soros. His money is everywhere, and just the enormity of his war chest, currently at $25 billion, dwarfs anything else on the right or left or in the center. And I think it's very bad for democracy. What we're witnessing now with Mamdani in New York and even Jay Jones in Virginia is a collapse of the Democratic center. The centrists in the Democratic Party are just being elbowed out and overwhelmed. And look at the organizational skill that's gone into these No Kings rallies. Well, they don't like Trump, and that's one purpose of the rallies, but I can guarantee you that there's another struggle taking place behind the scenes, and that's a contest for control of what's left of liberalism. And when Trump is gone, the left is going to be happy, but they'll have this whole infrastructure in place, and they'll be even more happy that centrists and moderates in the Democratic Party are also gone.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Peter, where can people find the NLPC online? Where can they learn more about you?
NLPC.org, NLPC.org, or just Google us.
Google it. I appreciate it. Peter, thanks for joining us, and good luck with what you're doing.
Thanks, Tim.
The CramerSez Project will return
after this important message. Last week in our We Told You So series,
we warned GM investors that CEO Mary Barra was bad for business.
We were right.
Barra's love affair with EVs just cost stockholders $1.6 billion as GM takes a massive loss after Biden subsidies come to an end. Then, Paul Chesser reported Bank of America had no problem debanking conservatives.
This is an issue that NLPC's been investigating since the story broke.
But refused refused to expose Jeffrey Epstein's financial activities.
During the January 6th uprising, Bank of America scrubbed through its data and turned over credit card information without being asked, without being subpoenaed, without having a warrant given to them by federal law enforcement. At the same time, they were doing business with Jeffrey Epstein without question. And then after Epstein died, they suddenly realized, we need to report this activity. And they filed 2 suspicious activity reports, as they should have done when Epstein was still alive and still banking. But they didn't do so. They were basically covering up the business that Epstein was conducting.
But wait, there's more.
NLPC Chairman Peter Flaherty is calling for the indictment of John Brennan, the ex-CIA director who pushed the Russia collusion hoax, relied on the discredited Steele dossier, and lied to Congress.
According to the House Judiciary Committee, John Brennan committed crimes. We believe there's even more to the story, and we're going to stay on top of it.
That was last week. What's NLPC working on next? Find out by subscribing to the NLPC on this platform.
Or by visiting us at nlpc.org.
Introducing Tusk.
With Tusk, you get uncensored news and secure browsing,
all while protecting your privacy.
Choose the news you trust and take control of your internet.
Join the free speech revolution with Tusk.
Download Tusk today at tuskbrowser.com.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
please visit thecramersezproject.com.
I'm just going to take a step back and let him cook.
Food stamps gone. Section 8 gone. All your SNAP and EBT benefits gone. Now you got to go back to Tyrone. Woo! I think this is great. We have just single-handedly saved the black family. Why? Because Tasha can't run out on Tyrone anytime she get mad and think the government going to take care of her. Tasha can't leave Tyrone and think that the kids going to eat. Tasha can't leave Tyrone and think she going to get a free rent. Tasha can't depend on the government because years ago, black women turned their back on black men for government assistance, for food stamps, for Section 8, for welfare, for WIC, for all the things that black men bring into their household. They said, no, we don't need that. I'll go file to the government and they'll give it to me. Trump said, hell no. Woo! Now you're going to have to start choosing better. Woo! Now women are going to have babies with men that actually want to have babies with them. Woo! Now women are going to have to vet their partners and not be able to just hit them up for a check every time and think they can live off the government. Woo! This shit amazing. You're going to see more wives and less baby mamas. You're going to see more 2-parent households because it's going to be a family unit because success is a team sport. You're going to see women go back to their men, go back to their child's father and try to work things out and not childishly run out to the next nigga. Why? Because Donald Trump and the government don't got your back no more. Because you can't go over there and get free food stamps and sell them bitches 40 for the 80. Because you don't have a $72 rent anymore. Because now you're going to have to figure it out. And the only person that's left is that black man that you walked out on years ago. And the price of pussy going down too. Donald Trump did it with this one, and I'm here for it. Queens, go back to your kings and work it out. Baby mamas, go back to your baby daddies and become wives. It's time for us to work together. This is actually amazing. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on your household. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on your marriage. No longer will you be incentivized by quitting on that black man. You are no longer incentivized to leave. So baby, you either pay or stay. That ugly money.
Yeah, what he said.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
You're watching Kramer Says.
We are at a point in history that was predicted, folks. That's what tonight's show has been about. The emergency that we're facing tomorrow, designed to be here, to have this emergency. The healthcare issue, designed to be here at this moment. It is a system. Systems are designed to create certain outcomes. We are here because they want us here. Oh, Kramer, that's not possible. It is. These are the most highly educated people on the face of the earth. They got all kinds of letters after their names. Either those letters and all that education don't mean shit. They know exactly what they're doing, and the reason we're here is because they want us here. They told us this is where they were going to get us. Folks, how do you think they get us to the point of you will own nothing and you will be happy? How do you think they're going to get you there? Do you think it's just going to happen all at once? Yeah, that's how it has to happen. That's what I've been predicting for the last 4 years. I said if we ever get here, it'll happen all at once. Nothing and then suddenly everything. It'll be all the emergencies all at one time. You see, the people who pull the strings up here, they're not worried. about left or right, Republican, Democrat. They're not worried about those. Those are small-minded issues. They're worried about winners and losers, which side to be on in the outcome. They keep telling you exactly what they're going to do to you. I keep telling you what they're saying, and you keep expecting their servants, the people that they've already got under their thumb, to solve the problem for you. Folks, the U.S. government, your state government, your local government is not coming to save you. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or on the right, if you're over here marching for this green-haired crazy idea or this patriotic flag-waving idea over, it doesn't matter. They're waiting to see which side wins, and then they just come in and they swoop in like the carpetbaggers of the South, taking advantage of everyone else's losses. That's how it starts. It's the exact same thing what Keir Starmer is doing in Great Britain with this digital ID. Do you honestly believe that they're going to give up on that? They've spent too much time, energy, and money, folks. The digital ID is going to be forced on people, and if they have to do it through force, they will. Yeah, I know I said force twice, but it's exactly what they're going to do. Have you seen what they're already doing? People spending time in jail, years, for Facebook posts. Well, that couldn't happen here. We get the First Amendment bullshit. It happened to Ricky Vaughn. Remember him back in 2016? Yeah, he made a joke about the election and spent 2 years, got sentenced to 2 years in prison for making a joke online. He typed it out. His words got him put in prison. Nope, he didn't go in, and he didn't say that a theater was on fire. No. Well, Cramer, what he did is he messed with elections. What? The First Amendment doesn't say that you can't joke about the elections. You're telling me that people are so stupid that they wouldn't understand that what he was saying was, hey, Democrats, make sure you go vote the day after elections. That's a joke. Jimmy Kimmel, the whole nation, all you leftists just rose up as he started making fun of a man being shot in the neck, made little of it, inaccurately said who his oppressor, who the shooter was. You guys all rose up for that bullshit. You see, this is what we're tired of. We're tired of the school ground, playground antics of children. And that's what the left has become. You don't believe that men can be women? You're a tyrant. You don't believe that I can switch identities at will. You're an oppressor. You're the problem. You think that we should limit what the government can do because of individual rights over the interest of the group? Fucking Nazi. This is what the left is not only saying, but this is what they're teaching your children, folks. Don't you get it yet? They're not stopping. Donald Trump winning the election did not stop anything. Their war continues. Trump didn't stop it. That's why Stephen Miller and other insiders, Alex Jones is reporting that others with inside the Trump administration are being sent to hardened facilities to protect them and their families from the threats being made from the left. We are at war. Charlie Kirk wasn't the first casualty. He's just the most recent. How many men and women were locked up over the last 4 years, spent the last 4 years in jail, denied their freedoms? We're at war. And if you don't get that, if you don't understand that that's where we are, then you're behind the 8 ball. You're not going to fare well in what happens next. Final thoughts after this.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Franklin D. Roosevelt said,
In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can be sure it was planned that way.
I don't make a habit of quoting FDR, but on this point, he's 100% right, which makes Vice President Vance's comments from last night even more important to pay attention to.
The only way to honor Charlie is to get to the bottom of exactly how this person was radicalized and who else was involved in it.
Hi, I'm Peter Flaherty, chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center. Since 1991, the NLPC has investigated and exposed the high crimes and misdemeanors of politicians and corporate leaders alike. Our mission is about one thing: accountability, not partisanship, just like Vice President Vance was talking about last night.
That is political terrorism. But it's not just the people who are killing the cops. It's not just the people who are engaging and throwing the Molotov cocktails and in the riots. Where was the money coming from? Who was organizing this violent activity? That is not going after Democrats unless, by implication, you're saying every single Democrat is involved in planning political violence.
For the past several years, NLPC is focused on who's funding the violence on our streets and the radicalization of our kids. Oddly, the same names keep popping up. Names like Soros, Hoffman, and Gates. The protests and the riots aren't happening by accident. The violence is not spontaneous. The left strategy is clear: encourage arson, vandalism, and looting, and then blame the violence on the law enforcement response. The protesters are well-funded and equipped, and the NLPC is digging deep into exposing those responsible for supplying these groups with the masks, shields, and other devices being used to perpetuate violence in the name of social justice. To learn more about our mission or to join it, follow and share us on this social media platform or visit our website, nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez Project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
Please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching Kramer Says.
How did we get here? If government and government officials, politicians, bureaucrats, everybody that we hire with the money that we send in every week with our paycheck, if they're all working in our best interest, how did we get here? Because they're not working in our best interest. They're not going to. The people who got us here are incapable of being the solution for getting us out. They've either been leveraged, bought off, or convinced that this is the path. But as the American people, we're saying it's not. Donald Trump, MAGA, it's not. The left doesn't understand that yet. And they're being the impetulant children that they always are. Petulant, yeah, petulant, not impetulant, petulant. Petulant children that they are. I've been telling you for the last 4 years that they're not going to tell you the truth. The media is never going to tell you the truth. That's why we created the CramerSez Project. We were hoping that we would get here. We were hoping that we would get to the position to where we would be free to speak again, where we could communicate freely on at least one or two platforms. We've been waiting for this moment because what we've learned over the last 4 or 5 years is that the media cannot be trusted. They are nothing but a bunch of lying whores in cohorts with the government, the deep state, whoever. They control these platforms. They tell us what we can and can't say, what we can and can't share. Back in 1938, back in 1938, the U.S. government passed a law that made it illegal for platforms of the time, Ma Bell, to do the exact same thing, because Ma Bell was doing the exact same thing that these social media platforms are doing today. They called it the common carrier provision. And it said that if you're paying for a service or are contracted with a service, like you are with your user agreement, by the way, that's a contract, When you agree to arbitration, that's a contract. So your user agreement says that this and that is true. Well, back in 1938, the men and women at the time said that Ma Bell should not be able to tell citizens what they can and can't talk about on that platform. Common carrier provision. They could do the exact same thing today, but they haven't. And they won't. Why? Because they're owned, folks. The people that created the problem cannot be the solution to the problem. Ever seen a bad cook fix a bad meal? They're incapable of it. They don't know how to do it. How do I know? Well, Obama asked back in 2016 when Trump was running for office, he was out campaigning for Hillary. And what did he say? Where is Donald Trump going to come up with all these jobs? Just wave a magic wand? If you've never created a job, if you've always been a leech, it's impossible to imagine how that's possible. It's like watching a magic trick happen. But for those of us who create jobs, we know how it's done. It's done by taking a calculated risk. And if everything is fair and everything is even, we should win. But time and time again, we find out the government is making decisions of who gets to succeed and who doesn't. And a new industry is taking off, they squash one and rise another. This has to stop, folks. It's unsustainable. Or there's an option. I'm not one of those guys that believes in a zero-sum game. There is an option. Here's the option. You've got to agree to be a socialist. That's the option. You've got to say, okay, fuck it. Fuck my rights, fuck my guns, fuck free speech, all of that. It's just going to be easier to cave in and live like, well, the Soviets did for 80 years. I don't even think it was that long. They didn't make it that long. I think it was 60 years. Think about that. This is what they want. This is the system they want. They want a one world government where one person makes all the decisions. Now, for those of you that are saying, well, this is all biblical, this is all prophesied, folks, I get you. I understand. But that doesn't mean that I have to like it or go along with it. The Bible didn't say that you couldn't dissent against it, that you couldn't try to stop it from happening. Well, you're not stopping it. I've heard that argument too. We will see. But I think that knowing where I stand with my salvation, stepping up to say that I am not going to do that bullshit, I don't think we have any problem with that. The reason that we formed the CramerSez Project is because I want to know. I want to know what happened. I want to know what happened from the time the FBI started spying on Trump to right now. I want to know. I want to be able to say, see, I fucking told you. Nothing that you said made sense. You're a fucking liar. You are a brainwashed, ideological sheep. I want to be able to say that. And we can't say that unless we know. I want to know. I want to know what happened with all the funding of Ukraine money. I want to know where that stuff went. I want to know who's going to go to jail for the corruption that is tied to that. Folks, if you think that there isn't any corruption in the U.S. tied to Ukraine funding, you're fucking crazy. I want to know. Don't you? Don't you want to know these things? You pay for it. Don't you want to know? The media's never going to tell you. They're never going to tell you the stories that really matter to you. They're not going to investigate pharma. They're not going to investigate AI or big tech or any of the other areas they're getting their big money from. They're not going to do it. They don't get money from GM anymore. Those are over. They don't get the big money that they used to get from all the other advertisers they had. Those days are over. Why? Well, simple. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. They don't have to advertise. You see, when you own everything, you don't care, as long as the market share is continued. That's why the brands that we grew up with as Gen Xers are gone from TV for the most part. And a lot of the brands that we grew up with are gone. Not because they weren't good brands, it's because they didn't survive the consolidation of all the brands to where everything that we touch, smell, eat, sleep on, everything, the clothes that we put on our back, come from basically three companies. That's why the CramerSez Foundation or the CramerSez Project was put into place. Because one place has to be offering the truth. That's what we want to do, is we want to build a network of independent reporters, citizen reporters, no different than you or me. Folks, I went to school for broadcasting, but I dropped out. Right? I'd already done that in high school. We had a radio and TV program in high school. I'd already done that shit in college. That's how I got on the air when I was 16. My career took off. I've done this in my entire life. It's not that fucking tough. What's the news? Do you know what the acronym NEWS really stands for? New Events, Sports, and Weather. Is that right? Weather and Sports. New Events, Weather, and Sports. That's what NEWS stands for. That's the acronym. Probably didn't know that, did you? Yeah. It's gossip. That's all it is. The news is just gossip. And what we've fallen for over the last 20 years is that the mainstream media news outlets would tell us the truth, that they would go investigate. They can't. They're owned by all the companies that they would go investigate. And when I say owned, I mean physically owned. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street has invested heavily in all the news channels. All of them. Except one. The new one that we're forming. The People's Network. One that reports on what's really going on. Powered by people. Yes, we're going to need financial support from the public, but nothing like what they're asking you to do. We think that there's a path forward to being able to tell truth. We've got 3 more years, hopefully, that we can make it through. By the time we get to 2028, we want to be in a position to where we can compete with the big boys. Now, everybody laughs, everybody jokes around, but folks, I have been successful in everything that I've ever done for one reason. I don't fucking stop. You've seen me on social media over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't relent. I don't stop. You can't tell me no. It can be done. It will be done. And it'll be done with your help. If you want to find out more about what this means and where we're going and what we're doing, again, we're just starting this process. But we see right now it's time to get people aboard. People, instead of just us pushing content out all the time, we need to have other people that can pick up the ball. For the last 5 years, we've created thousands and thousands of videos. No compensation, no monetization, no selling t-shirts. We did it for one specific reason. We did it because we wanted people to understand that what we were bringing was truth. That's the goal. Sometimes we get it wrong. And when we do, we go correct that. But the standards that we live by is that we're not doing this bullshit where someone said, and this secret whistleblower said. We don't do that. Our standards are higher than that. They've got to be, because what the standards are today got us to where we are, where nobody believes anything that's said. There should be one source of truth. We're trying to build that. We think that with your help, we can do that. With that being said, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you again next time. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, get over to the CramerSezProject.com. That's the CramerSezProject.com, CramerSez Project.com. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you for watching Kramer Says Live.
This concludes this broadcast.
Please follow, like, and subscribe to be notified the next time
The Kramer Says Project goes live.